Hello and welcome back to the channel, and in today's figure battle, it's Ladies' Night. In this corner is the veteran, Anastasia Sisarovna, codenamed the Baroness, who went from radical student to terrorist as Cobra's intelligence officer. The Baroness made her first appearances back in the very first issue of the Marvel G.I. Joe comic, as well as the first episode of the Sunbow G.I. Joe animated series.
Run, Mr. Hooper! I'll cover you!
Thanks, but I have other plans.
The Baroness!
This Baroness figure is from the G.I. Joe Classified Retro Card series. And in this corner we have the rookie, Miranda Kelly, aka Pandora, part of Series 3 of the Valorverse Action Force line. Pandora made her first appearance in the comic Action Force Mission Files, issue number 7. This is the second release of this Baroness in the G.I. Joe Classified series. The first one was the Cobra Island release, which came with a motorcycle. That figure was difficult to find at first, but I think it's widely available now, as is this retro carded version. I've been seeing this at several different Walmarts, and it's been heavily stocked every time I see it. The artwork on these retro cards is very nice, so if you wanted to keep these carded to make a display, it will look pretty good with these nice big pieces of artwork on the card. And we can see in the blister that the Baroness comes with 4 different weapons, her trademark glasses, and these retro carded figures do come with display stands. On the back we get a large file card, but unlike the old file cards, this one just gives you minimal information because it is in 5 different languages. So role, Cobra Intelligence Officer, Primary Specialty Intelligence, Secondary Specialty Fixed Wing Pilot. Birthplace Classified. Graduated from Student Radicalism into International Sabotage and the ranks of Cobra. And that's it. That's all you get in each of these languages. So very minimal, even though it's a large file card. The other figure being shipped with the Baroness is the retro-carded Lady J. And then we have a little mystery here of who the next 2 figures are going to be. I'm not an expert in G.I. Joe, so I can't really tell by the artwork, but I would assume that this is Flint and Destro to pair up with Baroness and Lady J. Pandora is part of the all-female Series 3 of Action Force. 4 different female figures in that wave. She comes with 3 guns, 2 bladed weapons, 3 alternate sets of hands, and a scarf, I believe that's called a shamar. On the back is the cross-cell for the rest of the wave. And she does get a full file card. File name Miranda Kelly, specialty organized crime, secondary skills arson. She's a lovely girl. Birthplace Limerick, Ireland. Affiliation formerly the Coonan Mob. Miranda Kelly is as ruthless as she is beautiful. Growing up on the tough streets of Limerick and Dublin along with her brother Shay, the siblings became members of Ireland's most notorious mob, run by Mickey Coonan. The pair's loyalty to each other was unmatched, and their reputations spread fear. No one would ever have thought that their allegiance to their boss could be tested until desire entered the mix. Pandora and Coonan's wife fell for each other and spawned into a secret affair that would leave mental and physical scars. After a vicious attack, Coonan left Pandora with a Glasgow smile carved into her face and exiled her and Shay from Ireland forever. With the former United States in turmoil, Pandora thought fleeing to America was the best opportunity to start over. Fearing Coonan's ties to mobs throughout the Northeast, Pandora and Shay laid low in Atlantic City, New Jersey, and started to regroup. They quickly rose to power, creating a name for themselves in southern Jersey and Philly. Their newfound fame drew the attention of someone who would help them become an integral piece of the Civil War ahead. So that's a nice full file card. I have not read the 7th issue of Action Force Mission Files, but I would assume that there are more details to this story in that issue. So Baroness dressed all in black, as she usually is, with just the red Cobra symbol on her chest armor to give her a bit of color. Although there is some variety in the black, the armored pieces are done in a gloss finish, while her sort of uniform leathery pieces are done in a matte finish. So even though the figure is all black, the different finishes do give it a little bit of variety. I do like the face sculpt, although she does have those 2 grooves on her temples to accommodate the glasses. So I don't know if you'd ever want to display the Baroness without her glasses. Those are pretty much part of her character, so I don't think anybody would want to, but if you did, you'd have those 2 unsightly grooves on either side of her eyes. Here she is with the glasses, and they did do a pretty nice job on those. So for articulation, you don't get that much movement in her head because of her sculpted hair. You can only turn it to the side a little bit each way. The shoulders can go 360. That armor is flexible enough to get it around. There is a bit of a butterfly joint in there, but again, the armor restricts that movement as well as the movement up. She can't really raise her arm out to the side at all. And there's no bicep swivel. She does have single jointed elbows, but again, the armor sculpt prevents the elbow from going up any more than that. So very limited range of motion in the arms. She only comes with 1 set of hands, and those are both in trigger fingers. She has a little bit of ab crunch and not much in the way of waist swivel. She does have full range in the hips, and they are drop hip joints, so you can drop them down and get a little bit more range of motion. And even though her elbows are not double jointed, her knees are. You can get that much out of them with the armor pieces. She does have a thigh cut. The ankles can pivot and go back and forth, although I did have to apply quite a bit of heat to this ankle to get it moving. This one moves much easier. You can hear that click when her ankle moves back. So 1 good ankle and 1 ankle is just so-so. This is what the figure stand looks like, just plain black with the Cobra logo sculpted into it. There is an indent in the front of the stand here, like maybe it was meant for a sticker to put her name on there. I know with the smaller retro 4-inch figures, their names are on the stands. But I searched in the package and there were no stickers, so I don't know why they would carve that into the stand if they're not going to give you something to put there. Her weapons include these 2 handguns, both the same. She can hold both of them, or she can holster them in her belt, like so. She also comes with this rifle and this other weapon. I'm not a weapons expert, so I'm not sure what this is. But each of these has this big unsightly peg sticking out the side. Now I assumed this would be to attach it somewhere on her for storage. And there is a peg hole on the back of her armor, but it's very shallow. You can fit the weapon in there, but the peg sticks way out, and then you're not able to get her head back because of her hair. So I'm not sure what that whole thing was about. The peg hole should have been deeper, or the peg on the weapon should have been more shallow for them to fit. So if you wanted to display her with all her weapons, she'd have to hold each of these larger guns in one hand, looking like the Terminator. And even if you wanted to put one aside and have her hold just one, she wouldn't be able to grip it properly because of the lack of articulation in her arms. If she has one arm holding the trigger, she can't get the other arm, up underneath it here to hold it properly. She just doesn't have that range of motion. So it's a nice looking figure, but a lot of limitations due to just poor execution. Well, just taking Pandora out of her package, this contest is a foregone conclusion, but let's go through the motions anyway, shall we? Beautiful sculpt, great paint applications, beautiful detail on the face. You can see the Glasgow smile in her face sculpt. Those are those scars on her cheeks. For those that don't know what that means. She's got some great paintwork around the eyes. She's got that tattoo on that arm, and there's another one on the back of her head that's really crisply detailed. For articulation, even though she has sculpted hair, she can get her head all the way around in a 360. Full range of motion in the shoulders, up, around, bicep swivel, double jointed elbows. She has a little bit of waist articulation. Hips, she does have the drop hips. She does have a thigh cut, double jointed knees, and I did have to apply some heat to the knees and the ankles just to be safe because they were a little tight. So much better articulation, especially in the upper body, the arms, than the Baroness had. Here's her display stand. All the Action Force figures come with this same style of display stand. You get 4 pegs on it, so you can put them in different poses. There's also a slot in the back if you want to cut out and display them with the file cards. I popped her head off and placed that chamois around her neck, and even with that on her, she can still get her head to move 360. So she comes with the trigger hands. You also get a pair of grasping hands for bladed weapons, a pair of open palm hands so she can cup the barrels of rifles and such, and a pair of fists. She's got a pair of handguns, and she can holster those on either side of her body. She has this rifle, this dagger that she can sheath on the small of her back, and she's got this weapon, which I believe is a comma. One thing I'd like to see in the future, maybe on the Valiverse website, is a list of exactly what accessories each of these figures comes with, because I know all of these weapons that they come with are based on real-world weapons. They're not just fictional guns that have been made up. So I'd like to know exactly what they are, since I'm not a military man or a weapons expert. Here's a look at these two ladies side to side. Pandora looks pretty formidable. From the look on her face to the musculature that's sculpted into her. This looks like one lady you don't want to mess with. While on the other hand, the Baroness looks like a cosplayer. I mean, I know she's based on the classic A Real American Hero Baroness, but she doesn't strike me as a very formidable fighter. So then, who takes the prize in this figure battle? Sorry, Joe fans, but looking at sculpting, articulation, paint, and accessories, Pandora is objectively the better action figure. Even though Baroness comes to the battle with 40 years of history behind her, Hasbro did not do her justice with this classified figure. There were just too many shortcuts taken. Many have said since its inception that Valiverse's Action Force has been eating G.I. Joe Classified's lunch. I think at this point, it may have also kicked it into the boys' room and given it a swirly. As I mentioned earlier, this Baroness figure is a re-release. She first came out in the Cobra Island series, and G.I. Joe Classified has made improvements since this Baroness was first released. Hopefully in the future, G.I. Joe Classified will do a new version of Baroness that improves upon this figure and corrects some of the problems. But for now, this Baroness is going to have to go back to polishing Destro's mask. And that's not a euphemism. Or is it? Do you agree with the outcome of this battle? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.